This is the Release and Realization podcast, where we explore emotional freedom and practical manifestation based on the teachings of Lester Levinson and Neville Goddard to help you unlock your inner power and create the life you want. Welcome. In today's episode, David and Anna talk about the essential teachings of Neville Goddard and their deeper meaning.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are attempting something. Well, something pretty ambitious.
That's one way to put it.
We are trying to map the architecture of reality. And I don't mean we're looking at physics or geology. We are looking at the architecture of experience. How your life, your personal reality, actually takes the shape that it does.
It's a blueprint episode, essentially. We're looking at the structural beams, the invisible framework that hold up your day-to-day existence.
It is. And to do that, we are diving into a stack of lectures and books by a man named Neville Goddard.
A name that's been popping up more and more lately.
It really has. If you're on social media, you might have seen his name. Usually it's a quote like, "Imagination creates reality," slapped over a picture of, a luxury car or a mansion.
Right. Which is deeply ironic considering the man spent most of his life lecturing in pretty modest halls in New York and Los Angeles, often for free or for whatever people could offer.
He wasn't exactly the archetype of the modern prosperity gospel influencer we see today.
Not at all. He was more of a mystic, a philosopher.
Exactly. And that's the disconnect we want to address. There is this surface-level internet Neville who gets treated like a sort of cosmic vending machine mechanic, do this little technique, get a car.
A spiritual life hack.
Yeah. But the materials we have in front of us today, his actual lectures and writings, they paint a much different, much more radical picture. This isn't just about getting stuff.
No. This is an ontological and consciousness-based philosophy.
And we should probably pause right there and define that, because ontological isn't a word most of us drop in casual conversation over coffee.
I can't say I've ever used it at a dinner party, no.
Right. So ontology is the branch of philosophy that studies being. It asks the big questions. What is real? What is the nature of existence itself?
So when we say Neville Goddard's work is ontological, we mean he isn't just giving you a little tip to get a promotion.
Not at all. He's proposing a fundamental theory about what reality is. He's dealing with the root cause of everything you experience. And that theory is, it's wildly different from the model most of us grow up with. We're taught that the world is this solid, stubborn, external place. It's filled with facts and obstacles.
And we are these tiny little biological entities just trying to navigate it.
Exactly. The billiard ball model of the universe. Things bang into you, you react. You are, at best, a secondary character in a drama that's already been written by physics and history and circumstance.
You're an effect, not a cause.
Neville just flips the entire table on that. He puts the individual's consciousness at the absolute center of their own universe.
He does. And to really get that flipped, we have to look at his background for a moment. Right. He was born in Barbados in 1905. Comes to America. He's a dancer and actor in the theater.
He was a performer, which makes sense given his later career as a lecturer.
It really does.
Yeah.
But then he meets this mysterious mentor, an Ethiopian rabbi named Abdullah. And this is where his formal training in this philosophy really begins. But the cornerstone of his teaching, and this is a huge sticking point for a lot of people, is the Bible.
Yeah, you look at his lectures and he quotes scripture constantly. For a modern listener, or maybe someone who has some religious trauma or just isn't religious at all, that can be a major turnoff.
Absolutely. It can feel like you've wandered into Sunday school by mistake.
It really can.
But we have to clarify this right at the top. Neville wasn't a priest. He wasn't a theologian in the traditional sense of the word. He did not view the Bible as a historical document.
So he didn't think Moses literally parted the Red Sea,
Yeah.
or that a guy named Jonah lived in a whale.
No, not at all. To Neville, the Bible was a symbolic map of human consciousness. He saw it as a psychological drama that takes place inside the human mind. Every single story.
Okay, so when he talks about Jesus or Moses or Pharaoh, he isn't talking about historical figures in sandals walking around the desert 2,000 years ago.
He's talking about states of mind. He's talking about psychological laws that govern your inner world. These characters are personifications of different aspects of your own consciousness.
That's a massive shift in perspective. So it's a code.
Precisely. It's a coded manual for shifts in identity. For example, he might interpret a story about a famine not as a literal lack of food in some ancient land.
But as a hunger for spiritual truth within a person.
Exactly. Or a story about a battle isn't about armies clashing. It's the internal conflict between your old limiting beliefs and your new desired state of being.
So when he reads the text, he's not reading history. He's reading a biography of every single person who has ever lived.
Yes, he called it the autobiography of God, playing out in humanity. Once you put on those decoder ring glasses, his work becomes accessible to anyone, regardless of their religious background. You stop seeing dogma and you start seeing a profound psychological system.
Okay, so our mission today is to decode that manual. We want to move from the high-level philosophy, the ontology of it all, down to the brass tacks.
The how-to.
The how-to. We need to talk about I am. We need to talk about this mirror concept he uses. And we definitely need to spend some real time on SSS, the state akin to sleep, because that seems to be the practical engine of this whole thing.
That's the roadmap. From the abstract to the actionable. We need to build the foundation before we can put up the walls and furnish the rooms.
All right, let's start with that bedrock, the foundation. Neville repeats one phrase like a mantra throughout his entire career in almost every lecture. Consciousness is the only reality.
It's the premise that supports everything else.
Right.
If you don't buy this, or at least entertain it as a working hypothesis for our discussion, the rest of the system just collapses.
Right. And usually when I hear a phrase like consciousness creates reality, my brain immediately translates it as a metaphor. Have a positive mindset and you'll notice more opportunities.
The psychological explanation.
Yeah. Like if I decide to buy a red car, suddenly I see red cars everywhere. Not because more red cars exist, but because my brain, my reticular activating system, is now primed to notice them.
That's the standard, accepted model. But Neville is saying something far more literal, isn't he?
Much, much more literal. He is not saying your consciousness filters reality. He is arguing that the external world, the chair you're sitting in, the temperature of this room, the balance in your bank account, is an effect. It is a projection.
It has no independent causality. It's like the image on a movie screen. The image isn't creating itself. It's being projected from the film in the booth.
And the projector in the booth is me, my consciousness.
The projector is your consciousness. The specific term he uses, which I find incredibly evocative, is congealed consciousness.
Congealed. That's kind of a gross word, actually. It makes me think of cold gravy.
It's a bit sticky, isn't it? But it's so accurate to his model. Think of water and ice. Ice is just water that has changed its state and hardened into a form.
Okay, I see that.
Neville argues that the physical facts of your life are just your consciousness that has cooled down and hardened into a seemingly solid state. The so-called hard facts of your life are just fluid beliefs and assumptions that have become solid through persistent focus.
So the world is a mirror.
It's a mirror. But, and this is the crucial part that trips everyone up, it's a mirror with a delay.
A time lag.
Yes.
Yeah.
And understanding that delay is the key to maintaining your sanity if you're actually trying to apply this work to change your life.
Walk me through that, because if I smile at a bathroom mirror, the reflection smiles back instantly. There's no delay.
Right. It's instantaneous feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But in the physical world, in this three-dimensional reality, there's a time lag.
Right.
The reality you are experiencing today, your current job, your current relationships, your current health, is a reflection of the state of consciousness you predominantly held in the past.
It's the echo.
It's the echo of who you were yesterday or last month or last year, the congealed form of your past self-concept.
Okay, that explains so much frustration. I think we've all been there. You decide you're going to change your life. You get really motivated. You start thinking positive. You work hard for 3 days, a week.
And nothing happens.
Nothing. The world looks exactly the same. The bank account is still low. The relationship is still rocky. The problem is still there.
And what do most people do in that precise moment of friction?
They quit. They throw their hands up and say, this doesn't work. I'm just deluding myself. Reality is reality.
Exactly. They look at the mirror, the external world, see that it hasn't smiled back yet, and they stop smiling. They let the old reflection dictate their new internal state.
They revert back to the old identity.
They do. Neville's whole philosophy is about reversing that flow of command. You have to maintain the smile, the internal state of the wish fulfilled, regardless of what the mirror is showing you right now. And you hold it until the mirror has no choice but to catch up and reflect it back to you.
That requires a level of mental discipline that sounds exhausting. It sounds like you have to actively ignore your senses, ignore the facts.
It doesn't require ignoring them so much as it requires a suspension of judgment, a refusal to accept them as final. We're so deeply conditioned to be reactive.
We are. The world acts, we react.
We are conditioned to believe that the world is the cause and our feeling is the effect. I'll be happy when I get the raise. I'll feel secure when I meet the partner. I'll relax when the problem is solved.
That's the entire basis of our goal-oriented culture.
It is. And Neville says that entire sequence is backwards. You must be the person who has the raise in consciousness first. You must feel the security of the relationship first. And then the external world reorganizes itself to mirror that new state.
So you have to embody the identity before any of the external evidence shows up to support it.
You have to become the evidence. Your sustained inner state is the only evidence that matters.
This leads us directly to the core mechanism of identity in his work, the concept of I am. Now, again, to the uninitiated, I am sounds very biblical, very grand. I am that I am.
It is biblical, but in Neville's psychological interpretation, it's the fundamental building block of experience. I am is your center of awareness. It's that raw feeling of beingness before you add any labels to it.
Before you are John, or a podcast host, or hungry, or tired.
Before all of that, you just are. You exist.
Yeah.
That is, I am. It's the pure, unconditioned awareness of being.
It's the blank canvas.
It's the blank canvas. And everything you attach to that I am with feeling is what you are giving instructions to the universe to create. I am poor. I am healthy. I am misunderstood. I am loved. These are creative commands.
There's a rule in his teaching that really stopped me in my tracks when I first read it. It's simple, but it's devastating. He says, you do not get what you want. You get what you are.
That is the golden rule of this entire system. And it is the primary reason why so much manifesting or even just conventional goal setting ultimately fails.
Okay, unpack that for us. Why doesn't wanting work? If I really, really want to be debt-free with every fiber of my being, isn't that a powerful energy? Doesn't the universe respond to that kind of intensity?
It responds to the identity behind the intensity. Let's look at the word. To want something, by its very definition, implies that you do not have it.
It implies lack, absence.
Yes. If I say, I want a glass of water, I am simultaneously stating, I do not have a glass of water right now. I am thirsty.
Right. If I had it, I wouldn't be wanting it. I'd be drinking it.
Precisely. So if the universe is a faithful mirror that reflects your state of being, your I amness, and your dominant state is I am wanting, what does the mirror have to reflect back to you?
It just reflects more wanting. It keeps me in a state of perpetually almost having it, but never quite getting there.
It gives you more experiences of wanting? It has to. The mirror says, oh, you are the person who wants wealth. Okay, I will give you more evidence to confirm that identity. Here's more experience of wanting wealth. It gives you the state you are occupying, not the thing you are chasing.
That is maddeningly logical. It's like a semantic trap. We literally trap ourselves with the language of our own desire.
It is a trap. And that's why Neville emphasized so strongly that you must move from thinking of the end to thinking from the end. This is the pivot point of his entire practical method.
Okay, let's really dig into that distinction. Thinking of versus thinking from. Because on paper, they sound very similar.
They are worlds apart experientially. Let's use a simple travel analogy. Let's say you're sitting here in this studio, and you are thinking of being on a beach in Hawaii.
Okay, I can do that.
You're picturing the ocean, the palm trees, the sand. You can see it in your mind's eye, but you know fundamentally that you are here in a chair. The beach is over there. It's distant. You are separate from it. You are an observer of the idea.
Right. I'm here. The beach is there. That's thinking of.
Yeah, it's thinking of. Now let's try thinking from the beach. Close your eyes. Feel the sun on your skin. Hear the sound of the waves crashing. Smell the salt in the air. Feel the sand between your toes. In your imagination, you are looking out at the water from the vantage point of being on that beach. This studio becomes a distant memory.
I'm not desiring to be there anymore. I am occupying the state of actually being there.
You are. That is the shift. That is what he calls living in the end.
And this is where so many people get tripped up with the whole fake it till you make it idea. Living in the end doesn't mean you go out and start spending money you don't have on a credit card.
Oh, absolutely not. That would be disastrous and, frankly, delusional. It creates immense stress, which is the opposite of the feeling you want to cultivate.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I start living a lifestyle I can't afford because I'm living in the end of being wealthy, I'm just going to end up in a much worse place.
Neville would be the first to advise against that. Living in the end is a disciplined internal act. It's an ontological shift. It's about achieving a feeling of naturalness and satisfaction inside your own consciousness.
Naturalness seems to be a real key word here. He keeps coming back to it in the lectures.
It's absolutely vital. If you are visualizing something and you feel this frantic, desperate, high-energy excitement, oh my God, I won the lottery, I can't believe it, That feeling of shock and awe actually implies doubt.
How so?
It implies it's a miracle. It implies it's something totally unlikely and out of the ordinary for you.
Because if it were normal for me to have that kind of money, I wouldn't be hyperventilating about it.
Exactly. If you walked out to your driveway this morning and saw your car parked where you left it, you wouldn't scream in ecstasy. You just get in and drive to work. It's natural. It belongs to you. It's a fact of your life.
So the feeling of the wish fulfilled should be calmer.
He says it should feel like relief. It should feel like a deep exhale, a quiet satisfaction, the feeling of, it is done. The search is over. The problem is solved.
That is a really helpful gauge. So if I'm sitting there straining, trying to force this feeling of manic excitement, I'm probably doing it wrong. I should be aiming for a calm certainty.
Satisfaction and familiarity. The goal is to make the new desired state feel familiar to your nervous system. You want to mentally wear it like an old, comfortable coat.
But here's the problem that always comes up for me, and I'm sure for listeners. Even if I manage to get that feeling for a few minutes, my rational mind kicks in. It storms the castle. The how. It starts screaming, how is this possibly going to happen? You have no qualifications for that job, or you don't know the right people, or the economy is terrible. The logistics, the practical steps, they just crush the feeling.
The eternal tyranny of the how.
Yeah.
In Neville's model, figuring out the how is not only not your job, it's strictly forbidden.
Forbidden. That's a strong word.
It is. He saw it as a form of doubt. Your job, as the conscious creator, is to define the what, the end. The means of how that end will come to pass are the domain of the greater consciousness, what he sometimes calls your dimensionally larger self, or, in his language, God.
That is incredibly tough for a modern, logical, control freak kind of person. We want a business plan. We want to know the steps from A to Z.
It's the hardest part, I think. We are trained to project manage our lives. Step 1, step 2, step 3, Neville says. No. Go to step Z, go to the end. Occupy the state of the completion, and then a bridge of incidents will appear in your life to take you there.
A bridge of incidents. That's such a poetic phrase.
It is. It implies a series of events, some that you might judge as good, some that might even seem bad or neutral at the time, that will, in retrospect, perfectly carry you across the gap from where you are to where you have assumed you are.
And the funny thing is, you often only recognize it was a bridge after you've already crossed it.
Almost always. It's only in retrospect that you can connect the dots.
Can you give me a concrete example of what that might look like?
Sure. Let's use a common one. Let's say you're living in the end of having a new, more fulfilling career. You're feeling the relief and satisfaction of it every night before sleep. Then, 2 days later, you get laid off from your current miserable job.
Okay, that feels like a complete disaster. That feels like this whole thing is not working. My life just got worse.
Exactly. The rational mind panics. It says, see, this is nonsense. But because you were laid off, you go to a coffee shop at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, a time you would normally be stuck in a meeting. At that coffee shop, you bump into an old friend you haven't seen in years. They mention an unexpected opening at their company, and it happens to be the exact career you were imagining. The layoff wasn't a disaster. It was the first plank in the bridge of incidents.
So it all unfolds in a way that feels like coincidence.
It always feels like coincidence. It feels natural. That is the hallmark of a true manifestation in this work. It doesn't arrive with a choir of angels and a puff of smoke. It comes in a way that makes you think, well, that probably would have happened anyway.
Which is the ultimate camouflage for this creative power.
It's the perfect camouflage. But to get to that point, to trust that bridge, even when it looks like it's collapsing, you have to understand the flip.
The flip, Neville talks about this as a non-linear change, not gradual improvement.
Right. We tend to think of change as a ladder. I climb rung by rung. I get a little bit better every day. But consciousness, according to Goddard, doesn't work that way. It moves in discrete states.
So you are either in the state of being poor or you are in the state of being wealthy. There's no in-between.
You might bounce between them, feeling abundant 1 hour, then feeling lack the next. But at any given moment, you are occupying one distinct state or the other. You can't be in both at once.
A state is like a package deal.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. It's a constellation of assumptions. The state of victim includes beliefs, postures, habitual thoughts, emotional reactions. When you are in that state, you attract and perceive victimizing events. When you flip to the state of victor, the entire constellation changes instantly.
And faith, in this context, it isn't just wishing or hoping something will happen.
No. His definition of faith is so precise. He says faith is existential certainty. It's a moment when the invisible imagined state feels more real to you, more solid than the visible external world.
That sounds almost like a controlled hallucination.
It borders on it. But it's a willed, controlled state. It's the ability to close your eyes, experience a reality so vividly in your imagination, and then open your eyes knowing, with a deep, quiet knowing, that what you just experienced is the truth. And the physical world is just an old echo that hasn't faded yet.
Okay, I think the listeners are probably with us on the theory now. It's radical, but it's internally consistent. But I can practically hear them screaming at their devices. Okay, but how, W? How do I actually do this?
Yes.
We can't just snap our fingers and change a lifetime of identity programming. We have decades of evidence and conditioning telling us who we are.
And that is the perfect segue to the practical toolkit. Because Neville knew this. He was a pragmatist. He knew you couldn't just think your way out of a deep-seated belief while you're wide awake and stressed and your analytical mind is at full power.
You need a backdoor into the system.
You need a backdoor.
Yeah.
And that backdoor is SETs.
SETs, state akin to sleep.
State akin to sleep.
It honestly sounds like a government program or something.
It does. But it's actually referring to a very specific and accessible physiological state. It's the hypnagogic state.
Hypnagogic. Okay, that's the drowsy, floaty space between being fully awake and falling asleep.
Exactly. It's that lovely, drifty, drowsy feeling you get at night right before you drop off, or sometimes in the morning right before you fully wake up. You are still conscious enough to direct your thoughts, but your body is totally immobilized and relaxed.
So why is this specific state, this particular zone, so important? Why not just visualize while I'm driving my car or washing the dishes?
And you can do that. He called those lullabies. But SAT is the power tool. It's the main event. And it's because of what happens to the guard dog of your mind.
The guard dog.
Your critical faculty, the analytical, rational part of your brain that stands at the gate and rejects any new information that contradicts what it already holds to be true.
So if I tell myself right now while I'm wide awake, you are a millionaire,
The guard dog barks. It immediately snaps back, no, I'm not. I checked my bank app 5 minutes ago. Remember, stop lying.
right, it bites. It rejects the affirmation instantly.
But in SAT, in that profoundly relaxed, drowsy state, the critical faculty goes offline. The guard dog is asleep. The gate is unguarded.
But the subconscious mind,
The subconscious, the part that accepts instructions without question, the part that builds your world, is wide open. The door to the server room is unlocked. You can walk right in.
so we are essentially hacking our own operating system at the root level.
That's precisely what it is. We are rewriting the code. And Neville was adamant that whatever you impress upon the subconscious in this state with feeling must be externalized as physical reality. It's a law, like gravity.
Okay, so let's walk through the actual protocol, the step-by-step. I'm lying in bed, I'm getting drowsy. What do I actually do? Because Neville is very, very strict about the rules here. This isn't just casual daydreaming.
No, it is not passive fantasy. It is an active, controlled act of creation. So, rule number 1, keep your imagined scene short and loop it.
Loop it like a GIF.
Exactly like a mental diff. You don't want to imagine a 20-minute movie of your whole life improving. It's too complex. Your mind will wander. You want a single, short scene that implies the wish is already fulfilled.
Can you give me a clear example?
Sure. Let's say you want a promotion at work. Don't visualize the months of hard work or the interview process. Go to the end. The scene could be your partner shaking your hand and saying with a huge smile, "Congratulations on the new role."
And that's it? Just that one moment?
Just that. 5 to 10 seconds, max. And you loop it over and over and over again. You feel the handshake, you hear the words, you feel the emotion, reset, feel the handshake, hear the words.
Why the loop? What does that do?
The repetition does 2 things.
Yeah.
First, it creates a deep groove in the mind. It saturates the subconscious with that specific feeling. And second, it prevents your mind from wandering off into doubts or worries. It keeps you focused on the feeling of the end.
Okay, that makes sense. Rule number 2.
First-person perspective. This is absolutely non-negotiable, and it's where most people get it wrong. You must see the scene through your own eyes.
Not watching yourself like a character in a movie.
Never. That's dissociation. If you see yourself over there getting the promotion, you are reinforcing the identity of being the person who is not getting the promotion. You are an observer of that lucky person.
You're still separate from it.
You're separate. You need to be the person. You need to see the scene from the inside out. You should be looking out and seeing your partner's face in front of you. You should look down in your imagination and see your own hands, your own body.
So we have to make it sensory. Bring the senses into it.
Yes. Neville called this giving your scene the tones of reality. And touch is the most powerful. In your imagination, feel the physical solidity of the handshake. If you're imagining a wedding, feel the weight of the ring on your finger. If it's a new house, smell the fresh paint.
Feel the key in your hand.
Feel the key in your hand. The more sensory detail you add, the more your nervous system is tricked into accepting it as a physical, factual event that has already happened.
This connects directly to all the modern studies on visualization and sports psychology, doesn't it? Top-level athletes do this constantly.
Absolutely. We now know from brain scans that the brain has very little difference in neural activity between performing a physical action and vividly, sensorially imagining that same action. You are laying down new neural pathways.
Right.
You are literally rehearsing the future in your mind and body.
So I'm in a Satis. I'm looping the short first-person sensory scene. When do I stop?
You continue the loop until you either drift off to sleep while doing it, which is ideal, or until you reach a point of what Neville called impotence.
Impotence, that sounds negative.
He means it in the sense that you feel done, you feel satisfied. The hunger of desire has been completely expended, and you feel a deep sense of peace and relief. It's like a spiritual sneeze, you could say. You've released it. There's nothing more to do.
And then you just let it go and go to
So
sleep?
drift off to sleep, marinating in that feeling of satisfaction. Neville says sleeping in this state is crucial because the subconscious then takes that impression and works on it for the next 8 hours, building the bridge of incidents.
That sounds incredibly powerful and actionable. But there's another tool in his box that deals with the past. And honestly, this one sounds even more like science fiction. It's called revision.
Ah, revision. This might be my personal favorite. It's the most directly therapeutic aspect of his work, I think.
But the claim is that it can change the past. And I have to be the skeptic here. The ink is dry. The past happened. If I burned the toast this morning, the toast is burnt. I can't go back in time and unburn it.
In the physical linear timeline, you are correct. The toast is burnt. But Neville asks a more fundamental question. Where does that past event exist for you right now?
It exists in my memory.
And what is a memory? It's a mental image, a story that is charged with an emotion. It is a live wire in your psyche. Neville argues that if you hold on to the memory of a failure or a trauma or a painful argument, you are keeping that negative state alive within you in the present moment.
You're carrying the corpse of the past on your back, as he puts it.
Exactly. And that corpse infects your present and therefore your future.
So revision is about editing the memory file.
It's about rewriting the script after the play is over. Let's use a concrete example. Let's say you had a terrible job interview today. You were nervous, you stuttered, you sweated, you know you didn't get the job.
An absolute nightmare. And I'm going to be replaying that in my head all night, cringing and feeling stupid.
Right. And every time you replay it, you are impressing. I am foolish. I am not good enough. Deeper and deeper into your subconscious. Revision stops that cycle. That night, you get into a relaxed state, like SATs.
Okay.
And you replay the interview in your imagination. But, and here's the magic, you rewrite it, you change the script.
I imagine it went perfectly.
You imagine you were confident, articulate, brilliant.
Yeah.
Imagine the interviewer was smiling, nodding, impressed. You imagine them shaking your hand at the end and saying, "That was excellent, we'll be in touch soon." And you loop that revised version until it feels real.
Does that mean I literally forget the bad one happened? Do I develop amnesia?
No, it's not amnesia. You'll still know, factually, what occurred in the physical world. But the emotional charge shifts completely. The memory is neutralized. When you think of the interview tomorrow, you no longer feel that gut punch of shame and anxiety. You feel the calm satisfaction of the revised version.
So you're essentially hacking the emotional tag on the memory file.
That's a perfect modern analogy for it. And because your future unfolds from your present state of consciousness, by neutralizing the negative charge of the past, you change the trajectory of your future. You stop that old echo from creating more of the same.
That aligns so well with modern trauma therapy. Things like EMDR, reframing, somatic experiencing. It's all about processing a charge of a past event so it stops hijacking the nervous system in the present.
It is. Neville just took it a step further and said that by changing the inner cause, you can sometimes see literal changes in the outer effect. There are wild stories in his lectures of people revising angry letters they received, only to then receive a new, apologetic letter in the mail.
Whether you take that literally or just psychologically, the benefit seems immense.
The benefit is the same. You reclaim your power from your own history. You stop being a victim of your past.
It is never too late to be what you might have been.
He would say it's never too late to change anything. Even a deep childhood wound can be revised in your imagination. You can go back and give your younger self the love or security they didn't receive. You are retroactively healing yourself.
That's incredibly profound, but now we have to wade into the really deep water. The most controversial, the most potentially triggering part of Neville Goddard's entire philosophy.
The big one.
The concept that
Yeah.
everyone is you pushed out.
EIYPO,
Right.
the acronym that divides the Neville Goddard community.
Everyone is you pushed out. When I first read that, my immediate reaction was to recoil. It sounds like solipsism. It sounds like you're saying, I am the only real person, and everyone else is just a robot or a puppet created by my mind.
And that is the most common and the most dangerous misinterpretation. And if you go on certain corners of the internet, you will unfortunately find people using this idea to justify treating others poorly, as if they're just non-player characters in their video game.
Which is obviously unhealthy and unethical. So what does he actually mean? Because he's not saying other people don't have their own consciousness, their own souls, right?
No, not at all. He is talking about the relational dynamic as it appears in your reality. He's saying that the version of a person that shows up for you, how they behave toward you, is dictated by your concept of yourself in relation to them and your assumptions about them.
Okay, let's make that concrete. The classic example is a difficult boss.
Perfect. Let's say you have a boss who is always critical, dismissive, and unfair to you. A classic tyrant.
We've all been there.
So the normal default reaction is to say, he's a jerk. That is his fixed personality. I am the victim of his bad behavior. All the power is with him.
Right, it's an external problem.
Neville says, stop. Look in the mirror. What belief in you is this boss's behavior reflecting back to you? Do you, deep down, hold an assumption that I am not respected? Do you believe that authority figures always take advantage of me? Do you have a core belief that I have to struggle to be heard?
So the boss is just an actor who has been handed a script that I unconsciously wrote for him to play in my reality.
In your reality, yes. He is faithfully confirming your own self-concept back to you. He's the messenger delivering the mail you secretly wrote to yourself.
That is a really tough pill to swallow. It feels like victim blaming. If someone is genuinely abusive to me, you're saying I somehow asked for that.
And this is where we have to be incredibly careful and nuanced. It is not about moral blame. It's not saying you deserve this or it's your fault in a shaming way. It's about a mechanical cause and effect.
It's a diagnosis, not a judgment.
Exactly. It's actually meant to be empowering, because if the cause is out there in the boss, if he's just a jerk, then you are helpless. You have to wait for him to go to therapy or get fired or have a personality transplant. You have no power.
But if the cause is the assumption operating in me,
Then you have all the power. You can change it. You don't try to change the boss. You go within and change your self-concept to, I am valued, I am deeply respected, my contributions are indispensable. You live in that state.
and what happens to the boss in the outside world?
One of two things almost always happens. Either the boss's behavior towards you changes, sometimes inexplicably, he suddenly becomes nicer, more appreciative, or he exits your reality. He gets transferred, he quits, or you get a better job offer and leave. The dynamic dissolves because the hook in you that his behavior was catching onto is no longer there.
It's a call to radical 100% responsibility for our experience.
Radical is the word. It means there is no one to change itself. You stop having arguments with people in your head. You stop trying to fix your partner or your parents. You go inside and you change the assumption you hold about them and about yourself in relation to them. You rewrite the contract.
It reminds me of that famous saying, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah, this is just the technical manual for how that mechanism works. Everyone is you pushed out affirms that the form of your experience with others is shaped by your own consciousness.
So we've covered the mechanics of creating, the tool for revising the past, and the principle for transforming relationships. It feels like a complete toolkit for living a better, more empowered life.
It does.
But reading through the arc of Neville's work, especially his later lectures, there's a distinct pivot. He starts to imply that getting the car and the job and the relationship isn't really the point.
That's what I like to call the great bait and switch of his entire career.
The bait and switch. Tell me more about that.
He lures you in with the promise that every hungry ego wants to hear. You can get whatever you want. And people come running. I want the money, the perfect lover, the restored health. And says, great, here's how you do it. And it works. And for many people, it works. But once you practice this, once you successfully use your imagination to change a circumstance in your life, once you prove to yourself that your inner world creates your outer world, something fundamental shifts in you.
What shifts?
You start to care less and less about the toys. You realize the manifestations, the stuff, are secondary. The real discovery is the power itself, the fact that you could do it at all.
The discovery that you are the creator.
Yes, that's the real prize. The ultimate aim of Neville's work isn't getting things. It's what he called the promise, or simply awakening. It's waking up to the profound realization that you are not this tiny, fragile body struggling against a giant, hostile universe.
You are the consciousness in which that universe is happening.
You are the dreamer of the dream. And when you truly realize that, not just intellectually, but as a deep experiential knowing, the fear drops away. The anxiety about survival drops away. Because you know you are the source of your own experience.
So the manifestation is just the training wheels.
It's the gym. You go to the gym and lift the weights of manifesting a better job or a relationship to build the muscle. But the muscle isn't for lifting more weights. The muscle is the realization of your own true nature, your own divinity, essentially.
That's a beautiful place to land. It elevates this entire system from a get-rich-quick scheme to a genuine spiritual path.
It is a path of ultimate freedom. Freedom from the belief that you are a victim of anything or anyone outside yourself.
So as we wrap up this very deep dive into the architecture of reality, what is the one thing the listener should take away today if they just want to test this, to dip a toe in the water?
I would say, stop looking for proof in the outside world before you are willing to change your inner state. The world is a feedback loop. It can only show you what you already are. If you want to see a change, you have to be the change first internally.
And maybe start by just observing the mirror without judgment.
Yes. Look at your life right now, the good, the bad, the ugly. Don't judge it. Don't resist it. Just observe it like a curious scientist. Look at your gift account, your relationships, your health, your recurring problems, and ask yourself the uncomfortable but powerful question.
What state of consciousness is this a reflection of?
What am I consistently assuming to be true for this to be my reality? Who am I saying I am to?
Exactly, because once you identify the state you're in, you realize it's just one state among infinite possibilities.
And you realize you have the power to step out of it and step into another one. The door is always, always unlocked.
And that is a powerful thought to leave on. The door is unlocked. You just have to be willing to walk through it. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Neville Goddard. It's been a trip into the very nature of being.
It certainly has. A pleasure, as always.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Keep exploring.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, please consider subscribing to the channel. For more in-depth and advanced content, you're welcome to join us on Patreon. We'll be back next week with the continuation of this topic.